Hello, this is Tim Law with Playing It Forward Coaching, and always encouraging your self-reliance by developing a marketable skill, people skills, going the extra mile, being able to do a variety of different skills becomes very, very important as far as the success for your life. Also, a big thank you to over 400 people that have subscribed to this channel. I'm really, really happy to have a gentleman I met a couple weeks ago down at Rehoboth Beach, a lifeguard and physical trainer extraordinaire, Bryan Bowles. So Bryan, tell us your story a little bit. We'll Q&A you and we'll take it from there.
Thank you for having me, Tim. I am a local resident of Rehoboth Beach, Delaware. I've been a lifeguard with the Ocean Rescue Team for 7 years now. I first started in 1989. And this is my first full summer back in 30 years because I have spent the last 28 years or so as a full-time trainer developing a personal training business in Washington, D.C. that I'm proud to say I met a lot of wonderful guys from down here as not only a lifeguard, but also a cabana boy on the beach. And when I knew that I needed to work beyond Labor Day weekend, I needed to figure out how can I create a business where I can work with people and help them maximize their abilities and their talents. I've always had a passion of physical fitness myself. So I thought, well, if I can work with people and see them grow and develop, then how can I combine the two? So I started personal training when, frankly, it wasn't even a business. Trainers back in the early 90s were people that worked for health clubs that just showed members how to use equipment. But to hire a trainer one-on-one was kind of unheard of back in the early 90s. So I was very lucky to come into it at the time that I did. And I met several patrons when I was guarding back in the late 80s, early 90s, as I said, in Rehoboth that also had homes in DC. And I thought, well, maybe I pass out some business cards, I put up a parasol for them, or I help keep the water safe, whatever service I was providing at the time. Maybe I could get them as personal training clients. So that developed into such a great business that I was able to semi-retire early. And when I say semi, that means I still love to work. I'm 50 years old, and I love to be running around with these 18 and 19-year-old kids. They keep me young, and they unfortunately have to listen to my long-winded stories about what the beach was like 30 years ago. But we all have the same common goal. And that's to keep the beaches safe and that everybody goes home at the end of the day. And that's why we're there. So, combination of, doing umbrella rentals and lifeguarding and personal training. It's just been a wonderful experience for me. And it's allowed me to meet great people like yourself, Tim. So that's kind of why that's why we're here today. So guarding has been arguably the most rewarding job that I've ever had. I wish I could say it's the most lucrative, but I would be lying. I don't do it for the money. For example, I had a gentleman last year that is from Pennsylvania, Labor Day weekend, massive heart attack. He was face down in the water, motionless. I was the first responder, pulled him out, administered CPR, chest compressions. Then I called down what was called a medical cover down, and that's where I basically get backup. So we brought the AED, and we shocked him back to life.
Wow.
And if it wasn't for the quick response of my teammates, the other lifeguards, he would have never survived. It was a massive heart attack. He was blue, and he was dead, and we brought him back. And I'm very proud of that. Guarding on the beach has its own challenges. Every single day, something different happens. No 2 days are alike. I love the interaction with the tourists that like to come down. Majority of people in the center of town have never been to the beach, so it's always kind of fun for me to watch their response to, we're not in the pool anymore. So how the tides work, what's the purpose of the jetties, what's an undertow, what are the dangers, that sort of thing. And I'm there to essentially educate and keep them from getting in trouble. And so a combination of all that has really been a very fulfilling 30 years. It allowed me to get into Ironman Triathlons.
Wow. Wow.
I've competed in 16 of those. I was in the World Championships in 2015. And it was a dream of mine that took me 12 years to get into. I just kept chipping away at the qualifying times to try to get in. And I finally was able to get there. And it was an amazing experience on the big island of Hawaii.
Yeah, for anybody that's not familiar with the triathlons, Bryan, give the stats and distances for those. I'm familiar with them, but go ahead, just share that, please.
So, a reference to triathlon is swim, bike, run, and there's several distances. They start off at sprint distance, and then they go to Olympic, half Ironman, full Ironman. So if you were to start doing a triathlon, you would be doing more than likely a sprint, which is typically a quarter-mile swim, about a 15-mile bike, maybe 12, and a 5K run, which is 3 miles. What I did was a 2.4-mile swim, a 112-mile bike, and then a full marathon at 26.2. So the whole thing is 140.6 miles. And I'm grateful to say I still have all the original parts. I don't have any knee replacements or anything like that, and I feel good. So I think running around on the beach certainly does help. But super grateful I was able to achieve that goal. And last year, I finished my 100th marathon. Wow. That encompassed all 50 states. So I turned 50 in December last year, and my goal going into the COVID year, I was at 94, 6 marathons to go, and 5 of those 6 were 5 states that I hadn't achieved before. So I'd done 45 states up to that point. Then COVID hits, and I have now all these airplane tickets and all these hotel reservations, and everything is getting shut down across the country. And I'm thinking, you know what? I already paid for it, so I'm going. So right. There I am. I'm in Ann Arbor, Michigan, at the University of Michigan, where Tom Brady played. And I'm running around Ann Arbor. It's about 55 degrees, and I'm going through the campus. And what I did was I brought a Garmin so I could record my distance to make sure it was legitimate. And it was an interesting experience running through campus basically by myself, but I was able to do the course, and I kept going with it. So I was in Lincoln, Nebraska in May last year, where the university is, and I got to see their weight facility. And, it's, to be honest with you, in Nebraska, there's not a whole lot going on. So you can imagine what it must be like if you're there then by yourself. But highlight last year would be running in Alaska with bear spray. They highly recommend during the bear season, which is summertime, that you bring protection. So there I am in the woods running around in Anchorage with bear spray, making sure that I wasn't a black bear's lunch, so to speak. A lot of fun. And then I finished up in Aspen, Colorado, and then Rhode Island was my final state. So then I came back here and did a triumphant Rehoboth Beach Marathon in December, making my 100th. So here I am. I'm back on the beach, loving this summer. And it's great to have somewhat of a sense of normalcy. So
I'm gonna have to try to connect with a couple of our cross country guys, because I think they've run the race down there in Rehoboth a couple different times. In fact, I saw some of the kids they brought down the same week we were down. Okay. A guy named Greg Collar and Pete LoBianco. I don't know if you guys have crossed paths, but I will definitely get you guys connected, because these guys are, they're as passionate about running as you are.
Fantastic. Wonderful.
Yeah,
Thank you. Yeah.
So any stories, Bryan, let's say, as far as sharks are concerned, because when we were down there 2 weeks ago, they did empty the beach. I don't know if you were working that day or not, but they emptied the beach because they were spotted a couple of sharks, and which was the first time that's happened to us in Rehoboth, that we all had to get out of the water. I mean, how often does something like that happen?
It's pretty rare, to be honest with you. It has happened a few times this year. We don't like to yell out on the radios "shark" or on the beach. It's
What could go wrong?
Yeah, it's equivalent to being in a movie theater and yelling out "fire." You
Yeah.
don't want to do that.
Yeah, yeah.
So we call that suspicious marine life.
Okay.
Basically, the good news is we have slant-nosed dolphins where the schools get bigger as the season goes on, and they keep the sharks away. You'll see the dolphins almost daily.
Yeah.
What's nice is that kind of treats our perimeter. And I always tell people, if you see a fin doing this, that's good news. You see a fin doing this, not so much. So it's there've been a few sightings. Thankfully, we haven't had any issues. I do believe there was a bite south of us, not in Rehoboth, but I believe it was in either southern Delaware or Maryland.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is the sharks that come up here are roughly 3 to 4 feet, and they don't really like the taste of humans. But the problem is they've already taken a bite out of you before they realize not on their menu. So the damage is done. But the idea of what you see in the movies with the great whites and all that, it's rare. But the waters are warming, and we're seeing a change in the climate in respect to how the marine life is changing the further north that you go up the coast. So there have been sharks spotted in, say, like the New England area that weren't there like 5 years ago.
Right.
But it's super rare down here. We have more issues with things like jellyfish, you know, and stuff like that.
Sure.
Yeah. But
well, Bryan, what about what's your view? And you know, we love going down to Rehoboth all the time. What do you think as far as the community, all the amenities? There's lots of restaurants there, places to stay. It really is a great atmosphere for families and everybody. What's your thoughts as far as saying things as far as Rehoboth Beach and that community?
It's been it has been a lot of change. You know, I also credit with being put on the map with our current president having a vacation home down here. We're also seeing an influx of patrons that I'm not sure they would have even known what Rehoboth was. It's kind of a hidden secret as far as the rest of the country is concerned. But a lot of new businesses have come down. It's always changing and evolving. For me, it's always going to be that quaint hometown that I grew up on as a little kid. My parents started taking me down here since I was 6 months old, and it's always been super special to me. So, you know, it's kind of bittersweet. Sometimes when you see these big companies, these big businesses come in, you start to think, you know, that doesn't have the hometown feel that I remember. But I also understand that change is inevitable and there's nothing you can do about it. But the crowds are getting to the point where it's kind of tough to get around for those 3 to 4 months in the summertime. We don't have the infrastructure to accommodate all these housing communities. The cornfields that I used to drive through are now planned homes, and Route 1 isn't getting any wider. So it is a situation where, you know, we are pretty maxed out, and that could be problematic down the road. But, you know, I think like anything else, you make the most out of your situation the best you can. I love September down here. It's my favorite time of year. My fiance's birthday is in September. The weather is typically perfect, and it's just a great time to be here. So, you know, we deal with the heat and humidity July and August, and then it's on the better times in the fall.
Sure. And what advice, Bryan, would you give to let's say some, you know, teens, young adults? Obviously got a phenomenal work ethic, which is something I try to emphasize with the plane and forward coaching. You know, the people skills, which you obviously have, you're checking off all the key boxes. What advice would you give to you know, young people, whether they want to become a lifeguard or anything as far as, you know, moving forward as far as their career and everything?
Find something that gives you satisfaction and enjoyment and makes a difference. And if you can do that, it won't feel like work at all.
Yeah.
So I got to tell you, there isn't a day that goes by when I don't leave that beach when someone isn't thanking me for being out there.
Sure.
And you can't put a price tag on that. I tried dabbling with real estate, and I was unsuccessful in it because I am very poor at sales and pushing people or moving a product. That didn't work with my personality type. And as I've gotten older, what I've tried to do is figure out what part of my personality would allow me to best serve me and serve others, as opposed to just making money.
Sure.
Yeah, making money is great. I mean, I like nice things as much as the next person. But if you're not, like I'm not computer savvy, I could not sit in an office and be behind a computer all day long. It would, and if they paid me $250,000 a year, it wouldn't help, because it would give me no satisfaction. So, I don't want to tell you what my salary is, lifeguarding, but I obviously don't do it for the money. So, and personal training has given me the same satisfaction too. When I'm running with someone who couldn't run a 5K, and I'm next to them and we cross that finish line and they've run a marathon for the first time, it's an incredible feeling, because they didn't believe in themselves, but I did.
Right.
And that's, and to just watch them accomplish that is an amazing feeling. As you can tell, as I get a little choked up by it, I've been, one of my proudest moments is, or accolades, I should say, is I crossed the finish line with 27 people who I've never run a marathon before.
Wow.
And that was part of that 100 that I mentioned earlier. And to experience that 27 times is super unique.
Yeah.
But in terms of like advice for the young folks, do things honestly, do things where you feel like you can make a difference, and it will pay back dividends big time. So
yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Well, Bryan, this has been wonderful. If you could hang
Thank
for a minute or two afterwards, that would be great. I'll be cutting this off, but I appreciate you very much. This was wonderful.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate the opportunity in speaking with you, Tim.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.